Today I am installing a front drive shaft on my 1991 Toyota Land Cruiser. It's a super straightforward process, a total of 4 bolts on each side, one pointing towards the axle and one pointing towards the transfer case. It's a super easy removal and installation. I'm only going to show you the installation because the removal is basically the same thing. If you're going to remove it, just recommend using either PB Blaster or WD-40, a 14mm wrench, and you should be able to take that off no problem. I ordered some new bolts online because when I purchased my Land Cruiser, it didn't come with the front drive shaft. Even though the previous owner did give me the front drive shaft, it wasn't installed. I'm going to also use a thread lock to make sure that they seal properly. And we're going to put it in this position the way that we see it here. All right, I have my drive shaft in position already. As you can see, it is my front of my vehicle here with the front axle. And then we have the back of the vehicle, or towards the back, where the transfer case is. And as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. We have the 4 bolts that are going to go there, right in there, and then the other side where the front axle is. I did want to mention about the position of the front drive shaft. It can seem a little confusing because it looks very similar, right? You have a kind of skinnier end towards one side and a thicker end towards another side. The skinnier end is where the slip yoke is. And what a slip yoke is it's supposed to move within itself when the suspension is moving or when the suspension is traveling. So I'll show you here. I'm going to pull this towards the axle and you're going to see it actually move. And that's what it's actually supposed to do. It's supposed to be able to slip in and out, because as you're traveling through different types of terrain, it's supposed to be able to be movable, right? It's supposed to, your suspension's going to move in different ways. And so that slip yoke is supposed to be able to come out and come back in. And so that's how we know it points towards the axle. Because I purchased my Land Cruiser without the front drive shaft installed, and I drove around with it without the front drive shaft with the center diff lock on, it's not aligning properly. So I'm going to get a jack, and I'm going to jack up my axle, and I'm going to have one tire off the ground. And because it's an open differential, I can actually move one tire, and it's going to rotate my axle, or the gears within the axle, and that will allow it to move and line up properly. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Like I mentioned before, I have my hand over here on this wheel, and then if we look at the differential, look at how it's moving. So I'm going to unbolt that over there, and then I'm going to align it by moving it around, and then we're going to bolt everything back on. Now that we have everything lined up, we just need to really tighten the rest of the bolts, the front of the drive shaft and the rear, and we're all done. Even though the process is super straightforward, it does take a little bit of patience because you have to move the wrench in very small increments, because there's tight spots around the drive shaft, and above the drive shaft it's kind of hard to reach. So just keep that in mind. If you have an extended socket like this one, it'll be a little easier, but it also takes a little bit of time. All right, and if you have a ratchet with an extension, it'll actually work a little better. You could actually angle it a bit and then wiggle in it, and from there you could tighten it, and it'll be a lot quicker than just using a wrench.
And there it is, a full installation of the front drive shaft. Essentially, it's just 4 bolts, 14mm. You're gonna need a wrench and a socket, and you might need to jack up one side depending on if you have been driving without the front drive shaft for a while. I was, so now I'm just gonna drop that axle down and we're good to go.
All right guys, so now that I've installed the front drive shaft, it drives perfectly fine, and I don't have to have the center diff lock on it. So we are good to go in this sense. So another one down for this project Land Cruiser. It drives smooth and it runs smooth, so pretty cool. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, let me know. If you think that there's something that you'd like me to do next, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be glad to do it. I have many more things that I need to do as far as maintenance go on the Land Cruiser, and also different upgrades. So thank you so much for watching. There's many more videos to come.